report.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, and welcome to the Planning and Zoning meeting for Thursday, January 6, 2022. Happy New Year to everyone. Just a couple of reminders before we get started that during our public hearing comment section, we'll start off with the city represented by Mr. Struckhoff tonight talking, followed by the applicant if they're available. Then we'll open it up to the community members. If anybody would like to talk, you have 5 minutes to address the board at that time with any questions that you might have. And then after the community is done, then we'll turn it back over to either the applicant or Mr. Struckhoff for rebuttal if we need to. Is that fair enough? All right. Let's open up tonight's meeting with our public hearings. And our first public hearing will be the Valvoline Conditional Use Permit -80. Mr. Struckhoff, state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is John Struckhoff, City of Warrenton, Director of Operations. As a preliminary matter, I would like to make the municipal code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri part of the record by reference, advertisement of this public hearing in the Warren County Record, part of the record by reference, and all the correspondence with the city, the public, and the developer be made part of the record by reference. Project summary. Anthony Clark has submitted an application for a conditional use permit and site plan approval for a 1.88 acre area of land at the intersection of North Highway 47 and I-70 eastbound on-ramp. The conditional use permit is requested to allow motor vehicle service and repair facility on a portion of the site for use as a Valvoline instant oil change facility. The proposed conditional use permit seeks to reestablish an oil change facility in an existing building on the site. The site is currently developed and no additional impacts are anticipated due to the reestablishment of the use on site. The site will be served by an existing street. No additional improvements are necessary for the site. The applicant seeks to utilize existing building on the site previously used for the same use. The proposal shares parking with the adjacent medical office building and provides sufficient parking for uses on the lot. Existing access locations off North Highway 47 and Nehus Road are utilized. No additional curb cuts are proposed. The proposal seeks to utilize existing landscaping on the site to comply with landscaping requirements. The staff has reviewed the proposed conditional use permit and site plan and recommends approval of the request. Any questions?
Not at this time. Thank you, Mr. Struckhoff.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I believe it.
Can you step to the podium and state your name for the record? And then if you have any comments other than that, if not, we can just be available for questions later.
No problem. My name's Anthony Clark, and like it states in the application, we plan on opening it up as a Valvoline Quick Lube Center where we'll do preventative maintenance. I know a lot of times folks or people in the city are worried about certain aspects with automotive. We won't be doing any heavy repair, engine repair, or anything like that. It'll be a drive-through facility that focuses mainly on oil changes, filters, wiper blades, fluids, that kind of stuff. We won't have any vehicles that will be repaired outside the building. Everything will be inside the base, and then we won't have any overnight parking or anything like that, any derelict vehicles or anything like that. So it'll look like it does pretty much now at nighttime, empty parking lot. So
Thank you, sir.
any questions?
Nope, not at this time. Thank you.
Provide your address for the record.
My address?
Yes.
1020 Brookmont Drive, O'Fallon, Missouri,
Thanks.
63366.
Thank you, sir. Anybody from the community like to speak tonight on this public hearing? Hearing none, we'll close that public hearing for this evening and open up the Valvoline Site Plans 151. Mr. Struckhoff?
John Struckhoff, City of Warrenton, Director of Operations. As a preliminary matter, I would like to make the municipal code of the City of Warrenton part of the record by reference, advertisement of this public hearing in the Warren County Record, part of the record by reference, and all of the correspondence with the city, the public, and developer made part of the record by reference. This is the same report that I just read on the last public hearing. Are there any further questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark, I assume the same for you? Thank you. Anybody from the community who would like to speak on behalf of the site plan at this time? Hearing none, we'll close that.
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Mr.
I'm just curious. There was a Valvoline site there before, Valvoline oil change. in the same location, and I'm just kind of curious, why is this being brought back up here?
So anytime a building sits vacant for a certain amount of time, it has to be brought back in.
Okay.
If it's within a certain time limit, then, and it's not a change of use, then it would not have had to come back. But since it's been vacant for so long, they have to go through the process.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, though. Just to let the community know that as well. Any other further questions? We'll close that public hearing and open up the Orange Blossom Phase 3 Zone Change -69. Floor is back to you, Mr. Struckoff.
John Struckoff, City of Warrenton, Director of Operations. As a preliminary matter, I would like to make the municipal code of the City of Warrenton part of the record by reference, advertisement of this public hearing in the Warren County Record part of the record by reference, and all the correspondence with the city, the public, and the developer be made part of the record by reference. Zone change 69. Ed Schmeltz has applied for a rezoning of a 4.5 acre portion of land on the west side of Highway 47 north of Fairgrounds Road. The site is currently zoned ORP, Outdoor Public Recreation District. The applicant is requesting an R3 High Density Residential District, and a PUD has also been submitted. The future land use plan designates the subject site as open recreation. The site is currently undeveloped and part of the Warren County Fairgrounds. As the property is proposed for residential development, the applicant is seeking to change the zoning to a residential district. The area to the south and west of the subject area are zoned ORP, and no changes are proposed to those areas. Property to the north and east is zoned for residential use and is existing Orange Blossom Estates, a 55 and older community. Staff analysis and rezoning request. As mentioned previously, the site is currently zoned ORP, Outdoor Public Recreation. Their proposal seeks to remove a portion of the overall fairground site and expand the existing Orange Blossom Estates development to the subject site. While the comprehensive plan designates the area as open recreation, there are very limited private uses within that district. In order to facilitate the expansion of the current development of Orange Blossom Estates, R3 designation is necessary to allow for multifamily dwellings. As proposed, the applicant has requested a rezoning to R3, a conditional use permit, and a PUD for multifamily dwellings within the required site plan, preliminary plat for the subject site. The CUP/PUD and site plan, as well as a preliminary plat, are also on the agenda under separate agenda items. Staff has reviewed the request to rezone the subject site from ORP, Outdoor Public Recreation District, to R3 High Density Residential District. All items and notice as required by state and local law have been provided and completed. While the proposal is not consistent with the future land use map, staff is on the opinion that the proposed change in zoning is consistent with the plan policies and future direction map. Staff recommends approval of the request to rezone.
Thank you, Mr. Struckhoff.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here tonight?
Sorry, Ed Schmeltz is here along with his developer or
Okay.
his engineer.
Just go ahead and step to the podium and state your name and for the record. And
Yes, my name is Chris Wolf with Wonderlick Survey and Engineering, civil engineer on the property, address 512 East Main, Union, Missouri. And I did bring a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if you want me to give that now. It has to do with all three public hearings that we're talking about.
So, do you want to wait and do it at the end, since it encompasses everything?
That's fine with me. If
you
it's
mean at the end of the third?
At the end of because we still have the PUD public hearing and the SUVD public hearing to go
Sure.
through.
Okay. And then we'll watch that, and then
then
we'll bring up any questions during the open meeting.
Yeah, that way if the public has any
Sure.
questions, they've seen everything, and then they can address their questions then to that point.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Yep.
Anyone on the community that'd like to speak on behalf of that? Hearing none? We'll move on to the next public hearing is the Orange Blossom Phase 3, the PUD 81, Planned Unit Development.
John Struckoff, City of Warrenton, Public Works not Public Works Director, Director of Operations. Sorry. As a preliminary matter, I would like to make the municipal code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri part of the record by reference, advertisement of this public hearing in the Warren County Record part of the record by reference, and all the correspondence with the city, the public, and the developer be made part of the record by reference. Project summary. Ed Schmeltz has applied for plan unit development for development of 4.5 acre portion of land on the west side of 47 north of Fairgrounds Road. The PUD is requested to allow 9 residential buildings, each with 4 residential units, 36 total residential units. The area to the south and west of the project site are zoned ORP, and no changes are proposed in those areas. Property to the north and east is zoned for residential use and is the existing Orange Blossom Estates, a 55 and older community. The proposal seeks to expand an existing development by establishing a PUD adjacent to the existing Orange Blossom Estates development that was approved under the same procedure. Open space and recreational areas are provided for in the existing area of the development. Additional open spaces and recreational amenities are proposed to service the proposed units. The development utilizes existing infrastructure in the area with new infrastructure to serve the proposed units. The proposal includes expansion of an age-restricted facility within the city to provide housing opportunities for older adults. The proposed plan includes sufficient street trees, parking area, trees, and shrubs to satisfy minimum code required landscaping for the site. As encouraged by city code, landscaping is clustered in areas. In addition to landscaping, a site-proof fence is included along the southern and western portions of the property. In combination with the proposed landscaping, the proposal complies with the city code for landscaping and screening requirements for the site. The development proposes to utilize existing storm detention as part of the adjacent site as capacity exists to handle the increased runoff. The site will be served by an existing street. An existing fire access easement will be vacated, and new easement with gated access is proposed for fire protection services. The fire district has reviewed the plans and no objections were noted. Staff has reviewed the proposed CUP/PUD and recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
I had one question, and I think you answered it there, but I just want to make sure, and I'm sure it'll be presented in the video that he's going to show. I think you mentioned something about a fence on the west side and the south side. Is that to kind of barrier this new place from the fair area?
Yes.
Because that was my only concern, was that
Yes.
do people know what they're getting into? If the, like, it's only a short amount of time during the summer, but at least there'd be some kind of barrier there. So pretty good. Yeah, go ahead and state your name, sir.
Yes, Ed Schmeltz, I'm the developer. Address is 71 East Independence, Union, Missouri. So in the original plans that we presented, gosh, 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah.
there was a 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence proposed for the south portion of this property, and it was going to run to the west to the corner of the fairgrounds property. So now we are shifting that fence, I don't know what it is, let's say 300 feet to the south, and then we'll also have to run another leg of it up along the west side of the property to the north to hit that wood line too, to, you know, so it'll be an L-shaped white vinyl privacy fence to separate our residents from the fairgrounds. I mean, it's not that often that they do have quite a bit of noise, but when they do, it's quite a bit of noise, so.
Yeah. Well, you're to be commended on so far what you guys have done up there. I mean, I really, driving around there, it's very nice. It's got plenty of walking areas for your people, gazebos, picnic areas.
Yeah, thank you.
The pond. I mean, everything looks really nice and it's well kept up. And
Thank
I
you.
think you've been a good addition to the city. And hopefully everything runs smoothly on this next section. We'll see how it goes and watch your video. But I'm excited for you guys and being a part of the community too. So.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Anybody from the city or community would like to talk on behalf of this one at this time? Hearing none, we'll close that and open up our last public hearing, and that's the Orange Blossom Phase 3 Preliminary Plat Subdivision -98.
John Struckoff, City of Warrenton, Director of Operations. As a preliminary matter, I would like to make the municipal code of the City of Warrenton, Missouri part of the record by reference, advertisement of this public hearing in the Warren County Record part of the record by reference, and all the correspondence with the city, the public, and the developer be made part of the record by reference. Ed Schmeltz has applied for a subdivision for development of a 4.5 acre portion of land on the west side of 47, north of Fairgrounds Road. The preliminary plat shows 9 residential buildings, each with 4 residential units, with 36 total residential units. A preliminary plat is the first step in the process to divide subdivide property. The plan shows preliminary design of lots, roadways, sidewalks, stormwater management facilities, sanitary sewers, water lines, fire hydrants, street lights, and easements required to provide municipal services to future lots. Once the preliminary plat is approved, the developer is required to complete construction/improvement plans in accordance with Section 410.225 of the Warrenton Municipal Code. Finally, a final/record plat is submitted with all required guarantees and fees to officially subdivide the property. Staff would like to note the following features of the proposed preliminary plat. Sidewalks are included on one side of the proposed street and located within the proposed right-of-way, Section 410.140. As sidewalks are proposed to be constructed, no contribution to the special sidewalk fund is required. In accordance with Section 410.145, describe the proposed method of mail delivery. Preliminary stormwater design includes curb and gutter draining to storm inlets that are then piped to a stormwater detention area. Section 410.180. Confirmation of the capacity of this facility to handle additional runoff should be provided prior to final plat approval. As a project includes facilities to accommodate stormwater from the site, no contribution to the Stormwater Management Improvement Fund, Section 430.050 is required. Open areas are included on the site. Section 410.150 requires residential projects to provide park area and open spaces accessible to the public or in lieu thereof at the option of the city, a payment of money in amount in accordance with a defined schedule. While open areas are provided, these areas do not provide areas acceptable to the public, and therefore a payment into the special park fund will be required prior to signing on the final plat. Prior to the approval of final plat, a completion escrow will be required. Section 410.110. Staff has reviewed the proposed preliminary plat and found that the proposal is consistent with Chapter 410 subdivision regulations of the Warrenton Municipal Code. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat. Any questions?
At this time, thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you.
I do have, if you'll step back up, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this, because I was discussing this project with a couple of community members that live north of there.
Okay?
So just, let's say Hawk Point. And has there ever been any discussion with MoDOT to put a third turning lane in on that spot there?
I have not heard anything from them about that, no.
To be honest with you, I said, everybody that lives there has raved about living there. I mean, I haven't heard anything negative about it. But the only complaint I ever have heard, and it's a complaint that we hear a lot of times in this room, is about, even in my neighborhood, I wish I had a third turning lane. I've been trying to get MoDOT to do it for years, but people that are going north out of the city.
So turning left into the subdivision.
Yeah,
is what you're
I mean, it's
talking-
55 and older, so it's a lot of elderly drivers, and and they're being extra careful, and so I'm sure, I'm not saying it backs up traffic, but I could see where a third turning lane there, but that's out of our control. If MoDOT would ever think it was necessary, if there's enough people that's going to live in and out of there, that would be something considered down the road. Hopefully that we can put some pressure on them to get that built in there. So
I know we do have to get certain permits through them.
Oh, I know.
For everything, so.
But
yeah.
it's something to think about in your head, that if that becomes a problem, then we can address that somewhere along the way. Because
I think the city should just go 4 lanes all the way.
well, that's
right up through there.
and that is that's the utopian that we're looking for, no doubt about it. And we'll start at your place and my place. I live on the south
there we
side.
go. Yeah.
I'm on the south side. You're on the north side. We'll meet in the middle.
Perfect, let's do it.
All right, thank you, buddy.
All right.
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is Mr. Cullum. I've got a question just to make sure.
Go ahead, Mr.
I heard
Cullum.
the term multifamily residence. Is
He's
there
on-
any
hang on.
variance
He's on
from
Zoom.
what was initially agreed to
Can you repeat
for
that?
Orange Blossom? I heard during the discussion in the presentation the term multifamily residence. I wanted to ensure there was no variance from what Orange Blossom was initially set up for. Which
No,
would
there's
be,
no variance.
For
It's-
those, I think, 55 and above. This is not going into this section wouldn't be different where you have multiple families living in one residence, correct?
No, sir. No, it'll be the exact same format as Orange Blossom. Our current subdivision restrictions will also apply to this phase as well. It'll be the exact same buildings, just another extension.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
My question was, do you have any projected time frame once everything is approved and we say go, how long it takes to develop that?
Maybe a year tops.
Yeah.
It'll be, yeah, on the high side, I think. It's pretty flat already. It won't be much for grading, and we've already got the plans, so, building plans, so got a little bit of experience doing them, so it should go pretty quick, yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, I do have to agree with the chairman with what he said. We're friends with a couple that live there already, and they totally love the community. They love the environment, and you guys have done a great job.
Good, that's always good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll be back with you when we go. So that's going to be the final public hearing, but we want to, at this time, open up the floor back to the developer there, or to the...
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Chris Wolf with Wonderlick Survey and Engineering. I got a little PowerPoint I was going to run through for you guys,
Sure,
just to
thank
kind
you.
of summarize what's going on here. So you guys can see on that screen a lot better than this screen, I'm sure. So with everything being said, we're asking for a rezone, a PUD request, and a conditional use that goes along with this. Let's see if I can get this thing to...
You might have to point it this direction. There you go.
There we go. Thank you. Basically, we're going to add on to the existing orange blossom that's there. When I say add on, it's not a legal addition, but we're basically going to do the same thing that's already currently exists there. The 55 and older community is going to be added on to by adding these additional buildings and units. All right, rezone from 2 R3 from the OPR. So OPR was part of the fairgrounds property there. So when I get to an exhibit here, we should be able to see what's going on as far as the actual location itself. Basically, when we say multifamily use, it's basically the zoning district is R3 for multifamily. It's going to be the same use that's there right now with the 55 and older senior community and then planned unit development. So just location wise, you know, you guys probably know where this is at. You've been talking about it before. Basically north on 47. Here's the existing development, and actually it is shaped where this piece that we're adding, that 4.5 acres, is actually adding to just basically square up the property. So that was purchased from the fair board, and trying to add on to the PUD. Right here. Existing zoning, existing property limits. This is just kind of a quick exhibit showing where the phase 3 is compared to the existing PUD. All right, next slide, please. All right, and then we're basically rezoning it to R3. All right, here's the site plan. I'm actually going to advance to the next slide, please. There we go. Okay, so basically this just shows you the aerial photo. So this is the Google Earth image that's out there right now. So you can see the development that's already been completed. This is the PUD that we were talking about. And then this is the addition to that. So as far as on this slide right here, you guys can see, we talked about the landscaping. We're basically having trees and shrubs within the development. But as Ed talked about, there is going to be a white vinyl fence here on the west side and on the south side of this development. And as we talk about this existing, there's an existing park area right here, existing detention basin, dog park, and pavilions in this area. So these people will have accessibility to basically all the amenities in the existing. So it's basically just going to be these people are going to be able to access the office, all the community grounds and everything all together. So as far as the density goes, basically it's 4.5 acres. We're basically putting in 36 units. So a density is 5445 square feet per dwelling. Basically, it's 8 dwelling units per acre. All right, just for a comparison of a development that was done recently, the Fairground Villas in Warrenton there. If you would, here you go. Yeah, so basically it was 5.11 acres, almost identical acreage, basically 40 dwelling units there. The density for that one was just above the 54. It was 57, 55, 65, so it's 7.83 dwelling units per acre. So how that compares, this chart just shows us that basically R3 multifamily allows 16 dwelling units per acre. We're coming in at 8 dwelling units per acre, almost the same as the Fairgrounds at Villas of Warrenton. As far as green space goes, we got 4.5 acres on the property. We're putting in 1.9 acres of green space, so it's 42% of the site is green space. Landscaping, I kind of showed it on that previous slide. We do have shrubs and trees per city code, and the white vinyl fence is going to be added. When we did the first part of this PUD, we had an emergency access that we worked with the Fair Board to get. That emergency access is going to stay in place, but now the development is coming to the south. So as that development comes to the south, basically we're going to take out a section that was previously part of the emergency access and pave that part of that route, and then just keep using the other part of the route for the emergency access. We've run that past the fire department, the hydrant locations and all that, and the fire department's been on board with it. This is just the existing office out there at Orange Blossom right now. That's the inside, one of the amenities of the office. This is actually the pavilion, and in the background you can see the fountain in the detention basin that we're going to use as part of this facility. And then here is the dog park that is right up against this phase right here. So, and basically in conclusion, the third phase here, we're rezoning, and we're trying to do this planned unit development, 36 units. Our density is 8 units per acre versus the 16 allowed by code. We have privacy fence, we got our landscaping per code, and 1.9 acres of green space. So, but that's just kind of a quick overview of what we're trying to do here. If you guys got any questions.
I do. So I know you have some units that don't have garages. You have some units, the rest of them have garages. So you have one bedroom, 2 bedroom.
In this phase, they all have garages.
Okay.
So every building has a garage. So we got E units and F units, and you can have Ed talk about that, but some of them are 2-car garage and some of them are 1-car garage.
Right.
So they all have garages in this case.
That's cool. Very nice place out there. So, all right, thank you. We'll bring up questions in the open meeting then. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Good presentation. Thank you, sir. At this time, we'll close the public hearings for this.
Public has any questions?
Oh, yeah. Did anybody in the public have any questions at this time? Anybody? Okay. We'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Melody. And open up our regular meeting for this evening. And we'll do that by listening to the minutes from December 2nd, 2021. If anybody has any additions or subtractions, if not, we'll entertain a approval.
Move to accept the minutes as read.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Detterman to approve the minutes as submitted. Anybody have any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Dederman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Deach?
Abstain, I was not present at that meeting.
Mr. Cullum?
Abstain, I was absent.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Abstain, I was absent.
Motion passes 6-0 with 3 abstentions for being absent. You will need a Mr. Deach. You will need a note to get back in.
You better hurry up.
Mr. Deach, Mr. Deach is our old high school principal, so he will need to have a note for being absent from that last meeting, so.
I noticed with great interest all of your questions regarding Orange Blossom Estates. You're getting close to that.
I'm there.
He's taking
I'm
out
there.
his claim.
Mr. Miller's the one that was asking how long it's going to take. I think he's looking already, so. All right, so that motion passed, so we'll open up the Valvoline conditional use permit -80 and open it up to the floor for any questions or comments, if anybody has any at this time. I think we asked most of them at that time that it's going to be the same use that it was there before. My question was answered to make sure that the new person was going to at least, because the big thing about this is derelict cars outside at nighttime and things like that, because that is such a visual place there as you exit onto the interstate there and so forth, and we don't want that to be a problem. So I think the gentleman answered that very clearly. So does anybody else have any questions or comments for the developer?
My only question would be, the fact that he offered that up, is that something that we need to make part of the conditional use? Is that there is no overnight storage of vehicles?
Yeah, we could do that.
You're certainly free to make an amendment to do that.
So you, when you're making your
Right.
motion to approve or disapprove, you put that in there. And before you do that, though, is there any other conditions that we can think of at this time? That was kind of the thinking I was thinking too. Is I didn't know if since he mentioned it, because do the previous conditions that we put on that property carry over to that?
No, if there's things that you had there before, I'd bring them up now and just add all that in. I don't know, depends on if it was already included in the CUP that was drafted by staff.
Right.
So.
And it didn't sound like, and I didn't read any, that they had any concerns with that, but I think it would be safe that that's the biggest, to me, that's the biggest one that we had at any time for a mechanic shop, that the outside storage at that time, because it can get pretty,
Right.
you know, junky quick, and we don't want that, and I don't think he wants that as well, but it does get up on you, so. Come up forward, Mr. Clark.
I think that's fine. I've had that in other leases or properties. The only thing I would say is that could it have specific language like derelict vehicles? I have a company truck, so if I want to park my company truck out there at nighttime occasionally or whatever.
Right, that, I don't think that's, we're not gonna say no outside parking whatsoever.
Right.
We're just saying cars that are to be worked on is my biggest concern. Right.
And you can approve it with let staff come up with the specific language with the applicant.
Right.
If you guys are okay, that give enough direction that
Sure.
staff, yeah.
Okay, that'll work out.
And what were going to be the roughly the proposed hours of operation and dates of operation?
So we'll probably run 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Saturday, and 9 to 3 or 10 to 4 on Sunday, something like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments at this time? Entertain a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the conditional use with the provision that city staff works with the tenant, the property owner, to address derelict vehicle and overnight outdoor storage of vehicles not being on that lot.
And I would second that with the understanding that if the city is working with the requester, that would not have to come back to planning and zoning for final approval.
Right.
If the city approves it after their discussion, it would be approved by this governing body.
Yeah, very good, Mr. Cullum. So we have a motion by Mr. Cornell, second by Mr. Cullum to approve the conditional use permit -80 with the intent that the city comes up with some verbiage to appease the situation with any outside storage of cars that the city feels is appropriate at that time. So any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Deach? Mr. Costello is absent. Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Dedeman?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum? Or Cornell, sorry.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0 with 1 absent. And all these will come in front of the board on what date?
January 18th.
January 18th. Next order of business will be the Valvoline Site Plan -151. Anybody have any questions or comments about the site plan? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
We'll add the same condition to the site plan as we do for the conditional use.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the site plan for the Valvoline site plan SP 151 with the same conditions to be added to from the CUP-A.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Dieterman, second by Mr. Deach to approve the site plan -151 with the same conditions under the CUP-80 stated earlier. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Beach?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Denman?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Next order of business will be the Orange Blossom Phase 3 Zone Change -69. Changing it from OPR to R3 High Density. Do anybody have any questions or comments about that at this time?
How much,
Go ahead, Mr. Cooper.
on some of the diagrams on that, they had, how much of that is being changed to just those 4.5 acres? Is that what's getting changed?
Yes.
Okay.
It's so when you pull in there and you go left and the dog park is right there to the left with that basin area with all those nice gazebos. If you look north, there's a, so it's basically squared off what's already there, basically is what it's doing.
I think some of the confusion is under the project summary on that. It indicates that it's 11.24 acre and the subject site. Is that what you were?
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. Yes.
So
I think the original,
did you buy just a portion of that 11.24 acres? Is that what?
Yeah, all that was purchased was 4.5 acres.
That's what the subdivision change is?
Yes.
hang on just a second.
Okay.
Are we?
Can you see it on there?
Yeah,
big
I
screen?
see what it is, and I realize what it
it's
was,
the
We
actual
have Slick, we
image.
can't flip it, sorry.
that one.
but it's kind of
We don't have the
confusing
PDF paid version over here.
with some of the other pictures that you had on there. It was kind of confusing. That's, I want to just clarify.
Can we pull your presentation back up? Is there a good picture?
It's actually in, well, it's file 4 in my file here.
There you go.
Right. Well,
But there's a photograph that
picture you
depicts
just had up,
under Tim Burke's
the picture that you just had up,
report.
it actually was labeled as like 11.47 acres was the visual on the previous picture.
It says
That
subject
may
site.
be causing the confusion.
Oh. So,
Oh, because of the.
See what I'm talking about there, John?
yep. So over here, and because
Yeah,
it's showing
right-
here,
right
it's showing
here, right there.
11.24
It
acres.
says 11.24 acres.
So technically, there's a line drawn like right about here, I guess. So it's this
Right.
piece here.
I think that's the visual that people were having the confusion about, because when I looked at it, all I saw was the 4.5, and seeing that one, I understand.
Just a big picture of the whole development itself.
Yeah.
And all that was purchased is this.
You see here,
corner
this
right
is
there.
what I was thinking.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
how you get that whole big
part
area.
Yeah, no, that wasn't purchased, it's actually two separate, it was deeded as two separate pieces. So this piece right here was just the
Just the
4.5
one.
acres that was.
That's what I was kind of
Yeah,
curious
so-
about, was that was being subdivided today or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jason, do you see it on the 4A that's up on the screen now? Where it's showing just the
I see
4.5
the
acres?
I see the 4.5. That was what I was looking at when I was looking through the notes. But whenever I see the visualization of the graphic, it looked like the 11.4. So I could see the reason why there was a question.
Yes. He was just agreeing with it. Thank you, Jason. Good catch, guys. All right. So understanding that it's just the 4.5 acres rezoning from OPR to R3, we'll entertain a motion or any other questions at this time, but entertain a motion at this time.
Make a motion to accept the Orange Blossom Phase 3 zone change 69.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Miller to approve the zone changes from zone change dash 69 from OPR to residential 3. Any other questions at this time? Roll call vote.
Mr. Deach?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Detterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0 with one absent. Next order of business will be Orange Blossom Phase 3 PUD-81. Anybody have any questions at this time about that one that wasn't answered before?
Back again?
Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept Orange Blossom Phase 3 Planned Unit Development PUD 81.
Second. Second that motion.
Okay, before we have a question on that one, during his presentation, he called it, or somewhere on there too, they said something about CUP. Is there any, the condition is for the multifamily?
I was actually looking for that. Staff recommendations doesn't have any type of conditions or anything like that.
I wouldn't think so, but I just, during the presentation, it was called that, and I didn't know if that was
It's a CUP/PUD.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. And, but I don't think there's any CUPs that, at that juncture, is that, because I think they're gonna do what they said they were gonna do on that, on the property, that, everything they've showed us. I've been up there several times, and it looks great, so. Anybody else have any questions or comments about that? We have a motion by Mr. Detterman, second by Mr. Cooper to approve the Orange Blossom Phase 3 PUD-81. Roll call vote.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Detterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Deach?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0 with one absent. And all these will come in front of again January the 18th. The last order of business will be the Orange Blossom Phase 3 Preliminary Plat Subdivision-98. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the PUD, the plat update as described.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Durbin to approve the Phase 3 of Orange Blossom Preliminary Plat Subdivision-98. Any other questions or comments at this time? Roll call vote.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Priest?
Yes.
Mr. Detterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Deach?
Yes.
And Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0 with one absent. That'll come from January 18th. We'll officially close the meeting, but don't turn it over to you guys at the city. Have anything for the good of the group? We definitely have a meeting next month.
There should be the
The thing that got turned back,
Yeah.
February 3rd. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the group? Once again, for both applicants, thank you for your interest in our community and welcome to the community, and we appreciate working with you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, three gentlemen that are out there in the cloud somewhere. We appreciate you joining us. And isn't technology wonderful? And Mr. Deach, it's your turn.
Move that meeting be adjourned forthwith.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deach, second by Mr. Cooper. All adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a good night.
Here, Mr. Deach. Here.